Hi everyone, NZ Tech Freak here once again for AndroidNZ.net, this time bringing you a connectivity demo for the Galaxy Note 2. And first of all, what we're going to do is connect it to just a simple pen drive, this one here being a FAT32 formatted 32 gig hard drive. So we're just going to connect this one up using, of course, a USB on the go cable and plug it into the micro USB slot on the Galaxy Note. And what you'll see is that a USB mass storage device is recognized, and it's going to go ahead and mount the drive. And if we navigate to the drive, you'll see USB drive A has been mounted, and we can browse that and watch files from it, for instance this video. Moving up the chain now, we're going to connect this 250 gig portable drive via USB on the go and see how that works. Now unfortunately my 500 gig drive has died since I last did my video, so this is the largest drive I've got that the Galaxy Note 2 can power. And once again, USB mass storage will be recognized, and it's going to take a little bit longer to mount, of course, because there's more material to index on this drive. But very shortly you'll see the My Files pop up here, and we'll be able to navigate through the drive and watch video as we did before. And of course you could do lots of other things with it, for example reading documents or copying things to and from the phone. Moving up the chain, this time to large drives. We've got a 2 terabyte desktop drive here, and of course that's too large to run from the power supply that the Note 2 is able to output, and has its own external power supply. So we're going to plug that in now, and you'll see that it's recognized, but unlike the 32 gig drive, which indexed very quickly, and the 250 gig drive, which indexed fairly quickly, this one's going to take a while. The drive is nearly full, so there's a lot of content on there for the phone to index before it's going to give us our My Files pop-up where we can go in and browse and do things with the files. I guess a few things that are worth noting while it's doing that is most of these large drives come formatted by default to NTFS, and that isn't compatible with the Galaxy Note 2. And so you'll need to reformat it to FAT32 in order for it to work, or use an app called Paragon from the market if you're a root user, which will let you use the drive with the Galaxy Note 2. So all I'm doing in the background here is just opening a Word document. This is an old review piece for the One X looking at the camera feature. And as you can see, we can access it from the drive perfectly well, working just as you'd expect. And what I'm going to do after this is just then copy it from the drive to the device and open it up there just to show you that that's all working. So basically large drives are working with the footnote that they do need to be formatted to FAT32, or you need to be a root user using a custom kernel or an app from the Play Store to have them work via NTFS formatting. And I guess just showing you here with a Word file rather than a media sort of file, that any kind of file you want to move between device and phone is possible over USB on the go. Now, interestingly, after the last video, I actually had a number of requests from people wanting to know if the Galaxy S3 would be able to connect to a digital camera, and I confirmed in comments that it was able to, but I thought I'd actually show it on video here for people who are interested in that. I didn't show it before because I thought it was a fairly marginal use case scenario, but actually quite a few people did ask, in particular holidayers who were thinking of leaving their laptop at home and just using their phone to offload content from the card slot on their cameras. So basically, just to show that this is working, you can browse it just like a USB drive that's connected as we did before. You can read files from it, and of course you can copy them off there and onto the Note 2, which is the thing of interest to many people who ask me about it. So I'm just going to pick one of the files and copy it to the external SD card for the Galaxy Note 2, and then access it from there, just to show you that all works just as you would expect it would. So pasting it now, and if we navigate to the external SD card now, go to the DCIM folder and the camera, and we'll see right at the top there the file that I copied, and we can open it here. So working perfectly. Moving on again, this time we're going to connect this Logitech wireless USB keyboard and mouse combo to the Note 2. You can see the touchpad is working, brings up a mouse cursor which allows us to navigate through the UI, and also the right mouse button key will function as a back key now, which means that in Jelly Bean, Google's fixed right mouse button mapping in Android. In ICS it was a problem in that it only became another select key like the left mouse button. This keyboard is not made for Android, but you can see some of the other shortcut keys are working. So long pressing home will bring up the recent apps task switcher, and of course short pressing it will take you back to the home screen. Some of the other shortcut keys are also working. In particular, the media keys work, which can be handy if you're going to be using a setup like this. So mute and volume up and down are also working. And to demonstrate that, I'm just going to navigate to settings and show that with a ringtone. Other thing of note, multi-touch gestures on the touchpad work. As you can see, I'm scrolling up and down here with two-finger touch, just as you would on your laptop. And now let's pick a ringtone and show you the media keys are working. Now, of course, the fun doesn't end there with USB on the go, because we can, of course, connect multiple devices via a powered USB hub, thereby sort of circumventing the limited power supply that the Galaxy Note 2 can output. So what you can see here is connected the wireless USB keyboard and mouse, the 250 gig portable drive, a card reader with a micro SD card in it, and we're going to connect all of those things to the Galaxy Note 2, and you'll see various connections are recognized as we plug this in. So it's going to detect a mouse, and it's going to detect some mass storage drives, and of course they're all working, so we can use the keyboard and mouse, and we can also navigate through the two drives. So you'll see there USB drive A, that'll be the 32 gig pen drive, because it's been indexed more quickly, having less content, and then shortly afterwards appearing the USB drive B. So everything here working simultaneously and working just as it did individually. So if you wanted to, you could do this, and I know a couple of people actually who use a sort of desktop replacement system that involves a USB hub and various devices like the Galaxy Note or the Galaxy S3. So everything works here, and if you wanted to, it's a bit cumbersome, this setup, but if you wanted to, it does work. Now just going to show you yet another form of USB on the go connectivity, this time a Xbox 360 controller, the 4 Windows one, as you can see with the box there in the background, and this connection doesn't require root, but it does require installation of a third-party program. So what I've got here is the other Note in the household, and you can see we've installed SuperUser, but only to show you that this phone is not rooted, as you see the error message when we try to start it. Now this is the app USB/BT Joystick Center, and we can map the Xbox 360 controller here using the inbuilt IME within this app. So if we plug it in and search for devices, you'll see that an Xbox 360 controller is recognized, and if we click on that, we have the key mappings available here. So for instance, I can map the D-pad left, press it there, and you see it's gone red, and similarly we can move through all of the buttons and do that. So once you've mapped all of your buttons, then you're able to go into things like emulators that will allow for keyboard mapping, and certain other apps in the market that will also allow it, for instance things like Meganoid that allow mapping external controls. So that's just to show you that that's all working, and here we are actually using it to navigate the UI, just as you might with a PlayStation 3 controller, which is natively recognized. And just, I guess, to put all that together, this time we're going to connect the PS3 controller up, an Xbox controller with all the buttons mapped as we did before, and we're going to exit USB BT controller here after mapping the keys, and that's actually a key thing, is to hit the back key rather than the home key to exit there in order for the key button mappings to stick. And now we're going to jump in and play some multiplayer Tekken via USB hub. From the viewfinder. Get your controller in the game. I had a few people request whether it was possible to run ROMs from a USB on-the-go mounted drive, and I just wanted to briefly show that that is indeed possible. So if we go in here and navigate to USB drive A, which is our mounted drive, you'll see that you can indeed run these from a drive if you want to spare your internal storage. And this part of the video has been sped up just to demo this. And just to appease the people who assume that all emulator gamers are pirates, please witness I do actually own Tekken 3, just as I own all my Nintendo carts. Moving on to USB audio, this is of course supported in the Galaxy Note 2 as it was in the Galaxy S3 before it, and I'm going to demonstrate this with a really awesome Kiwi metal band called Beast Wars that I recently glommed onto. Really suggest that you check them out, and you'll see a link to their Bandcamp page here where you can stream their whole album and listen to it. So without further ado, let's show you USB audio with Beast Wars. just want to quickly demonstrate here that all sound is outputted via USB on the go, not just from the music player. So here we're going to check out a YouTube video. More Beast Wars. Now this next bit isn't particularly Galaxy Note 2 related. This was just in response to some requests from audio fans at Headfi, so please skip this if you don't count yourself amongst that number. I just had requests, people wanting me to show them the portable rig that I use using my US Galaxy S3 and USB audio. So here's my red AT&T Galaxy S3, and I'm going to connect that via USB out to the headamp Pico USB DAC and amp, which you can see here. And now normally I connect that to one of my closed headphones, and you can see a selection of those in the background, the Ultrasone Edition 8, Betadynamic T5P and Audio Technica Anniversary Edition there. But what I'm actually going to demonstrate it with here is the LCD2, which being open back will leak more sound so that you can hear that sounds coming out of this whole rig. And in terms of portable audio, this is a very nice setup, giving you very, very high quality sound on the go, or more correctly really as a transportable rather than portable rig. I tend to use this in my lunch breaks at work. So a very nice setup. Very, very high sound quality, but unfortunately the Pico doesn't work with the international Galaxy S3 or the Galaxy Note 2, so at the moment I'm looking at getting Lekerton and a Ray Samuels audio DAC to try out with the Note 2 and see how they go. So I expect to get similar sort of fidelity out of my Note 2 once those USB DACs ship. So just connecting it now, and again we've got Beast Wars. And just to show you that that's working and outputting sound via the LCD2s that you can see there. Sound quality is not going to be great, obviously, since you're listening to a YouTube video from sound leaked from an open headphone, but as a demonstration, at least it shows you that this does all work. Moving on from USB on the go, I just want to show you now connecting to an HD TV, and that of course is via a wired connection, in this case MHL. What you can see here is an 11-pin MHL adapter, which is necessary for the Galaxy S3 and the Galaxy Note 2 because Samsung changed the pin configuration for those. You can actually use older 5-pin adapters, such as the one I'm holding up here, but in order to do that you're going to need to spend some more money to get an adapter for that, and I've got one of these little adapters here, and that will convert that from a 5 to an 11-pin input that will work with the Galaxy S3 and the Galaxy Note 2, and presumably upcoming MHL equipped devices, or at the very least those from Samsung. So first thing I want to show is obviously it's working. You can see the phone display is being mirrored there. and I just want to show Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. Now I've sped this bit up because it's kind of dull. I'm just showing that the keyboard works, and also that a number of the shortcut keys work, because this of course is the Logitech for Android Bluetooth keyboard. Now interestingly, Logitech actually don't sell this in many markets, so if you go to Logitech's page for whatever country you're in, if you're outside the US, you're unlikely to find this keyboard. You can actually get them from eBay refurbed. They're about $35 US, so pretty reasonable going for a specifically made for Android device. And as you can see, browsing works, and it's a pretty good experience, being that we're mirroring a 720p display on the Note on the HD TV here. And just going to move on and show you that some of the shortcut keys are working. For example, the back key, the home key, and of course the various other ones that will open things like your calendar or the browser, and in particular the whatever default music player you've selected on there, which is quite handy because of course the media controls, play, pause, volume up, volume down, and mute all work here on the Logitech for Android keyboard. And naturally, to show you that, I'm going to demonstrate some more of the awesome Beast Wars. Check them out on Bandcamp. Buy the album, well worth your time. Now, of course, it's not all just fun and games with MHL. You can actually do more productivity-oriented activities with it, and what I'm going to demonstrate that with here is an app called Splashtop, which is an RDP application, and what you're seeing on screen is the display of my Windows PC in another room that's being wirelessly mirrored and controlled here on my Note 2, which in turn, of course, is being mirrored to the HD TV. And as you can see, working well. I'm accessing Chrome here, so I've got a full-blown desktop browser that I'm using, and I'm also controlling this with Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, which was one of the great advantages I found in Splashtop compared to other RDP apps available on the market. So as you can see, quite a natural experience browsing and controlling it and typing with Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and working well. Of course, there's other things that you can do with RDP, and again, this is kind of a feather in Splashtop's cap, the fact that you can actually mirror sound from your PC via Splashtop, which is an uncommon feature amongst these apps, unless you've got a sort of Windows Professional build on your computer. So I'm just going to demonstrate that here with a YouTube video. I'm just going to bring up one of my videos and show you that sound is working. Naturally, it's a bit hard to type and narrate and do all these things at once, so just bear with me a second, and I'll open up a YouTube video and show that it sounds working. Doesn't look great on the setup I have here, because unfortunately I'm in New Zealand and we have terrible asymmetric ADSL connections, so my upload speed that's being shared between both the Note 2 and the computer is very poor indeed. On a better setup, you'll notice much less latency and it becomes a much better experience accordingly. So I think I've nearly sorted out my typing issues, and let's bring up this video and show you that.
Please respond. Helena, do you read me? Damn.
Naturally, there's other productivity related things that are much more comfortable to do on a desktop rather than a smartphone environment, and document editing would of course be one of the things that would clearly be in that category. And with an RDP setup like this, a large display, a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, you actually have a fairly natural environment for doing that from your smartphone. Of course, what you're seeing here is a fair amount of latency, and of course that's related to the terrible connection that I have here with a very low upload speed that's being shared between phone and the desktop that I'm connected to. So it's not going to represent the experience very well, but if you've got better connections, you will notice that the experience is much improved, and in fact is a very workable way to do document editing and lower level sort of PC productivity work. Obviously you're not going to be doing really grunty Photoshop work or video editing on this setup, but for sort of occasional use on the go, at a pinch this can actually serve you fairly well. And I do know a couple of people who do make reasonably extensive use of this, in fact, when traveling rather than carrying a laptop. So it's not something a lot of people are going to do, but it's there, and I guess as a sort of signal of where things are going in terms of convergence and your sort of smartphones and tablets encroaching on desktop sort of usages. And finally, and I guess last but not least, of course, you can watch 1080p video from a phone like the Note 2 via MHL, and it will be displayed to the external monitor in 1080p and do up to sort of 7 channel sound. So I'm just going to find our Big Buck Bunny 1080p DivX. one other cool thing about N64 is that you can actually use high-res texture packs, and that's what I'm showing here. There's a screenshot on the right of a high-res texture pack versus one on the left, and I think even on YouTube you can probably appreciate there's a pretty vast difference in detail, so you can see how much smoother the map is there compared to the blockiness on the left, and similarly the massive increase in detail on the tree there from the low-res one on the left as it appeared on the Nintendo 64 originally, and the high-res run on the right, which is how we're going to be playing it from N64 And I'm going to show you that with a Wiimote, this time a Daytel Retro wireless one, which works natively of course with the Galaxy S3, providing you use a third-party app to pair it up. I'm using Wii Remote Controller here, so just going to run around and show you it's working. While we're showing you all things connectivity and games related, just wanted to show you here again one of my favourite games on the Android platform, also available for iPhone and other things. It's called Wind Up Night. Truly great game. If you haven't come across this one, highly recommend you grab it from the market. And what I wanted to show with this was that actually even some games that aren't designed to accept external gamepad inputs can actually be controlled with gamepads, providing you're prepared to root your device. So this is the rooted Galaxy Note 2 here, and what I'm going to demonstrate is an app called Sixaxis Controller, which lets you use a PS3 controller wirelessly for one thing, but also lets you do touch emulation, so you can program on-screen buttons that the Android system will recognize as a touch input, and by doing that you can actually map the controls for games that have no native support for gamepads and control them wirelessly from a PS3 controller. So I'm going to show that now. You'll notice when you're seeing this game that there's the occasional little hitch and it doesn't seem to be running completely smoothly. Please do not fault the game or the developer for that. On your device it runs absolutely beautifully, and what we're brushing up against here is actually just a little bit of the limitation of MHL in terms of its frame rate and what it can reproduce. So don't hold that against the game. Make sure you go and get it if you haven't already, and sit back. I'm just going to be controlling this with a PS3 controller. Now the last thing I wanted to show today was the AllShare Cast dongle, and when I shot the equivalent connectivity video for the Galaxy S3 I didn't actually have one of these. They weren't available at the time. Have of course since picked one up, and I'm holding it here in the foreground. A simple little plastic box with a charging input and a connection port for an HDMI cable for connecting to your HD TV or external monitor. So basically once you've got it all connected and you're paired up, you'll see here everything that's being displayed on the phone screen is being mirrored to the HD TV in the background. And that's the advantage, I guess, that the AllShare Cast dongle has over something like DLNA, which is another way to wirelessly stream between phone and TV, is that the AllShare Cast dongle will mirror everything. So if you want to browse on your phone, if you want to look at a Word document on your phone, or play a game on your phone and have it displayed on the big screen, you can do that via the AllShare Cast dongle, whereas you can't with something like DLNA. What you're probably noticing as you're watching what's happening in the background there is that it's not completely smooth, and the reason for that, I presume, is the fact that you can't buffer this kind of content in the way that you could with, say, a video stream. For something like browsing, it's still smooth enough that I find it perfectly usable and is a great thing to be able to do. If you're going to be gaming, then the experience can be less satisfactory. If you're just going to be doing a casual game, something like Ski Safari or Cut the Rope, it's going to be just fine and you're going to find it perfectly playable to use it that way. If, however, you're going to use something like Dead Trigger, which I did also try with the AllShare Cast dongle, you'll find it's much more difficult. There's a lot of drop frames and the playability for some of those higher end games isn't really there. Just in terms of video playback, which is probably still going to be the major thing that people do with the Cast dongle, just to say that Samsung have actually implemented it really, really well. They've done a great job so that when you stream content to the television, what happens is this phone screen goes black so that you're not consuming phone battery, displaying the video on the phone screen when you're also mirroring it via the AllShare Cast dongle. So really well thought out move by Samsung. The other thing they've done is made that so that while you're browsing YouTube on the phone in portrait, if you're playing a video, it will actually mirror that in landscape, which is really great, and we'll just demonstrate that shortly. Now, I mentioned earlier that if you wanted to do some high quality gaming, you're going to brush up against some of the usability limits for the AllShare Cast dongle. So I did just want to actually show that limitation, and I'm going to do that with N64 Oid playing Conker's Bad Fur Day. And the reason I've chosen Conker's Bad Fur Day is it's recognised by many to be the most demanding cartridge to emulate amongst the sort of games catalogue for the Nintendo 64 platform, and actually the Galaxy Note 2 can actually play it perfectly smoothly. So this is kind of a landmark moment really in mobile phone games emulation, the ability to actually run the most demanding game for this platform from a phone, and it's the first Android device I've ever had where I could say that that was the case. Now, the AllShare Cast dongle is not going to do the best job of showing that, of course, and that's the reason why we're watching this, just to see that you'll get the occasional drop frames. It's perfectly playable, but it's not ideal. So I'm just going to leave it running and show you that. What you can see here is a Seagate GoFlex satellite. Now this is a 500 gig Wi-Fi drive, and what that means is that the drive broadcasts its very own Wi-Fi network so that you can connect to it when you're out and about anywhere and stream content from the device. And for someone with something like a Nexus 7 with a very low and fixed internal storage, this can be a great solution to problems. And if we peel off the panel at the back here, you can see a standard Seagate connection port for connecting up to your PC if you wanted to load content to it, or various other things. For example, a car cigarette lighter if you wanted to keep the drive juiced up on a family car trip, perhaps streaming a movie to the kids in the back seat to keep them occupied. So Seagate have done a pretty good job in terms of thinking about the sorts of ways someone might want to use a device like this in terms of the connections they've bundled with the box. And now in terms of connecting to it, basically like any other Wi-Fi network, it broadcasts an EthSID that identifies itself, and you just need to connect to that. So I'm just going to show that now and connect up the Galaxy Note 2. So here we are. If we jump into Wi-Fi settings, we can see the GoFlex satellite, and we're going to connect to that. Now, one problem that might be already occurring to some viewers is that if you're connecting to this, how are you going to get data connection, say if you wanted to browse while you were streaming some tunes? And fortunately Seagate has covered there as well. And if we go to the browser now that we're connected, it's going to redirect us to a page that will let us manage content from the device. And the cool thing about that is it lets you do internet pass-through, so you can connect to a different Wi-Fi network for data. And there's also a Seagate app, so I'm actually going to demonstrate setting up that internet pass-through from the app itself, and you can see it looks basically the same as the web interface. So it's going to find the Wi-Fi devices. There's everybody's favorite Droid, and we're going to connect to that. And it'll take a little while, but eventually it'll say that we're connected to that, and then we can browse the web while we're streaming content from the Seagate GoFlex. So pretty cool stuff. So what I'm going to do just very quickly in the background when that connects is show you that I can go and load a web page while I'm connected to both the R2D2 data network and also the Seagate GoFlex. So what you'll see now is I can browse the web rather than just being continually redirected to the web interface for the Seagate, and that's working fine. Now you can of course use either the Seagate app or the Seagate web interface to play back things like photos and videos and music from the Seagate. Unfortunately, it's not ideal. That side of the software isn't so well thought out as some of the other aspects of the device, and its codec support's fairly limited. Fortunately, it works as a UPnP player, and if you use something like Bubble UPnP from the Play Store, you'll find it's a really good experience using the Seagate GoFlex with your Android device. So it's just searching for it at the moment, and then it's going to find it, and we'll be able to browse content from the GoFlex on the Galaxy Note 2. And I have to say, as a music player, it's very competent. It's got all the sort of shuffle and repeat options that you'd want, browsing by artist or genre or however you've got your tags organized, and it'll grab album art and so forth. It can also do things like Last.fm scrobbling and things like that, so pretty fully featured as a music player. And a great way to access, for me, all of my collection in FLAC codec, which doesn't fit on the phone itself. So pretty cool. In terms of video playback, even better. It lets you hand off to whatever local decoder you want to use as your default one. So for instance, you could use something with really good codec support like MX Player or Dice Player to play video from your Seagate GoFlex using Bubble UPnP, and in fact that's what I do, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to show a video playing back just to show you how that works, and basically it's great, perfect experience. And you can even, and I'll showcase it shortly, even stream up to 3 separate HD streams to 3 devices simultaneously. So here we go, watching just one video. So that was connecting one device. Now I'm going to show you connecting to three simultaneously. So what I've got here is my Garnet Red AT&T Galaxy S3 playing back Big Buck Bunny from the Seagate GoFlex. And in the background you can see two other devices. One is a Huawei MediaPad and the other is of course the Galaxy Note 2. So picking up the Galaxy Note 2, what we've got here is we're streaming FLAC music to it. So you can see there album art, all the things that you'd expect to see on a music player. And finally we'll just pick up the Huawei MediaPad, which is getting a different HD video stream from the Seagate, one of the inbuilt videos that Seagate load on there for you. And then I'm just going to pick them all up together and show you that all three are playing perfectly well, all at the same time from the Seagate GoFlex. So pretty cool stuff. So that's all we had for you today. A bunch of things demonstrating some of the capabilities of the Galaxy Note 2, and keep an eye peeled here and on the blog for lots more content relating to the Galaxy Note 2 in the coming days and weeks. So that's NZ Tech Freak signing out once again for AndroidNZ.net, and we'll catch you here next time.